The 5 brutal truths about marriage that I'm going to share with you all today are not hypotheses and they are not theories. These are proven patterns that I have noticed over and over again in the work that I do with my clients. They're also truths that most people don't realize until much later in life. And I promise you, this is not to scare you away if you are not married and you're kind of looking for the one and you're in that phase of life right now. And if you are married, I promise you this is not to make you want to throw the towel in or to give up on your relationship if you are experiencing challenges, but instead it's just to encourage awareness and to look at things from the Islamic psychology perspective. So if that resonates with you, stick around and let's get right into it. Assalamu alaikum, peace and blessings be upon you. My name is Kashmir and I am a marriage and family therapist based in the US. I'm also an author and the founder of a private practice mental health clinic called Heal Therapy. I create weekly videos about mental wellness and health from a faith-centered perspective, but please know that this is a safe space, so whatever your background or beliefs, you are absolutely respected and welcome here. And with that, let's get started. So brutal truth number 1, a religious husband or wife does not equal a good one. I know that this is a really controversial one to start with, but let's unpack this a little bit. Okay, when we think of someone who is religious, oftentimes as human beings, our mind thinks of the physical. We think of the attributes. Maybe if it's a brother, we think big beard, thobe, kufi, pants above the ankles. And when it comes to women, we typically think hijab, modest dress, maybe even niqab. And there's nothing wrong with both of those, right? In fact, we should be striving at our utmost to live in accordance to the way that the Prophet ﷺ and his wives and the righteous believers did. That's something that we should aspire towards. But what I'm challenging here is more about the notion of religiosity, because sometimes we get so stuck on the physical that we apply this kind of halo effect to everything else that an individual does. So I'll give you an example. A brother comes and he has a big beard, as we said, physical attributes of religiosity, he's on the deen, etc. But when he talks, he is very, very rude. He is callous, he is disrespectful, maybe even a tad bit misogynistic. He carries himself in a way that is very arrogant. So on the one hand, there's this display of religiosity, but on the other hand, someone might feel intuitively like that behavior does not align with the physical representation of religion. And the reason why this is important is because even though it's not the majority of cases, a lot of times women and also men can be blindsided by the physical aspects that a person shows of themselves. And the same applies to physical attraction too, right? When someone is physically attractive, we attribute many good characteristics to them, i.e. the halo effect, and sometimes we diminish and minimize their negative traits because they are physically attractive. And sometimes people do that with practicing individuals, i.e. visual displays of religiosity. But what I want to question here is, what does spirituality actually mean? And I want to bring it back to basics here and redefine what that means. So is it gentle behavior? Is it kindness? Is it the way that someone interacts with their family members with gentleness? Like what is religiosity? And when I think of that, it's that there is this internal belief in Allah, of course, tawheed, pure tawheed, and that manifests in someone's outward characteristics. It manifests in how they deal with other people. It manifests in how they speak, right? Because the tongue gives the fragrance of the heart, as Ibn al-Qayyim said. And so I truly believe that when we're considering someone and we say we want them to be on the deen, etc., that we truly look at their mannerisms. Because if they are harsh, if they are emotionally unavailable, if they weaponize Islam as a way of controlling and manipulating, then that becomes a form of abuse, actually, under the cloak of religiosity. So when you meet someone and you are having a sit down, make sure that their physical qualities actually collaborate with their internal, so that when you are seeing someone religious, then their internal characteristics, their mannerisms, and everything that flows out of them is also in alignment with that. and that the two are not just strange realities that coexist but don't seem related, if that makes any sense. And one way of being able to identify this in someone who you might be having a potential sit down with is by just seeing how they talk about religion. I think that could be really, really revealing, because when someone is narrating hadith and they are reciting verses from the Quran and they're talking about deen, it can be done in many different ways. So for example, you could be with someone and they instill like a love of the religion in your heart. They inspire you. They do it with gentleness and compassion and a genuine want to benefit you and to guide you through their words. But then there are other people who, when they speak about deen, it's done in a way where they're almost using ayat from the Quran to kind of bash you over the head, to judge you, to alienate you, to control, to abuse. And so it's really, really important to be able to discern which of those are you feeling from this person. Because to be a good Muslim, you have to have good mannerisms. That if someone just has the outward display and they don't have a handsome or beautiful or pretty character, then there's something wrong. Now, moving on to brutal truth number 2. Patience and endurance in the face of injustice and oppression is not righteousness. Now, speaking more from a woman's perspective, the way that we are conditioned in society, specifically as women, we are told that we have to placate the feeling of the people around us, that we have to be nice, that we have to be forgiving and overlooking and patient, and that is really, really important. But when it comes into the context of abuse specifically, that can be very dangerous, because when you are operating in a relationship that might be manipulative, that might be very unhealthy, unfortunately, and toxic potentially, then it's really important to have an additional third person involved in the process. If things are escalated to a degree where you are questioning your understanding of reality and whether you should be patient and continue and persevere through something, then that might be a sign that you need to bring a third person in. That could be an imam, right? If you want a spiritual perspective. It could also mean a member of your family and your partner's family to kind of come in and arbitrate in the situation. Or it could even be someone like a therapist who comes in and offers like marriage and family counseling. Now, whatever it is you choose, it's just important to have that third voice in there so that you're not going insane in this echo chamber where all you're hearing is the voice of the other individual and you're questioning maybe your own reality in that process. Patience does not mean silence. It doesn't mean not talking about something because that is wrong. In fact, Allah tells us to seek counsel, to ask and to seek advice. And the reason why I mention this is because recently I had a case where a couple came into therapy and the husband had been cheating on numerous different occasions throughout the decade and a half of their relationship. The infidelity had actually begun at the very beginning, at the inception of their relationship. And when I asked her, what is it that kept you in this marriage for so long? Her response was, I'm just trying to be a righteous woman. I'm trying to be patient. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm trying to stay with him and let him know that I am here and devoted and loyal no matter what he does. And when I heard that response, no judgment at all on her, but it made me reflect over sometimes the conditioning that we go through as women, that somehow there is this correlation that is set between religiosity and patience in the face of adversity and silence. And that's not actually what Allah would want from us. Allah wants for us to seek help, to seek aid, to do justice, to apply and implement justice. And so it's really important for us not to equate silence with piety. I know there's a little bit of a theme in these brutal truths between an external and an internal truth, like we mentioned in the first one, but this one is really important because there are many, many women and even men who remain in relationships because they think they're doing the right thing. And actually, if they only sought help, it could help them navigate through really difficult and tough times in a way that they don't have to be in that echo chamber for years and years of their life. Now for brutal truth number 3, which is you should marry for potential. Now, again, this is a controversial one because we often hear it the other way around, that you should not marry for potential. And the reason why I think this one is super important is because in a lot of the work that I do with premarital couples, when they're looking to get to know each other and they're sort of in the courting phase, they oftentimes have like a list in their mind, like a checklist, right? And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. Actually, I highly encourage that you do have a checklist. One of the characteristics that you would like or love in a spouse, and two, the non-negotiables, the things that you absolutely do not want in your spouse. But going back to this, there is a checklist that people have in their mind about what they want in a partner. And what I notice is that there is either an internal expectation that people have for themselves, which is, I need to have a certain type of job, or I have to be looking a certain kind of way, or I have to be earning a certain amount in order for me to qualify as suitable for marriage. And on the flip side, this expectation being superimposed onto a potential. So this individual has to have achieved all of these things in their life in order for me to even consider them. And I want to question actually that expectation that individuals set, because the truth is that no one's going to have it all together. And the best, I think the most successful relationships that I have seen is when both couples saw potential in one another and they grew together into the life that they both wanted. And I do want to add here that there are certain circumstances where you shouldn't marry for potential. For example, if someone is showing tendencies of like inflexibility to change, so you have a lot of discussions around things and it just seems like they are very set in their ways about every single thing, then that can be a really difficult foundation to work from, because you're looking for someone with a growth mindset, someone who's flexible, someone who's willing to work with you. And so you have to be discerning about what characteristics reflect a growth mindset, what shows that they are willing to make progress, what shows that they're willing to grow in the deen, what shows that they are willing to put the hard work into that relationship and that marriage in the future, inshallah, to make it work, to make it progress. So there you have it. 3 brutal truths about marriage. I hope that you found benefit in this, and if you haven't already, be sure to check out part 1 of this video. Thank you for watching, and I pray that Allah blesses you in your marriages, your relationships, and brings you closer to Him. Allahumma ameen. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum.